Today's stage sounds like it's going to be a painful one as we are venturing into the Spike Factory. If Mega Man has one critical weakness, it is spikes. And so this one may sting a little. So let's just see how spike-filled this factory really is. this was overall an okay stage. The overall stage design was done pretty well. There was a lot of different traps and obstacles to overcome, a lot of pits, a lot of riding on little time bombs, things like that. When it came to those time bombs though, I will say that there were a few that felt out of place, that maybe could have been trimmed out a little bit here or there. And also for a stage called Spike Factory, there was a particular absence of spikes. I definitely expected a lot more from that end of things, but the general design itself was done pretty well. The enemy placement itself was done well, to be fair and balanced. There was a little variety here, nothing too crazy, but for the most part it all worked well. I didn't really have any complaints with the way the enemies were placed throughout this one. It worked out pretty well. There were a couple trains of thought when it came to grading the power-ups in this one. On one hand, you don't have a whole lot to play with, so there's not a lot of wasted inventory. On the other hand, what you do have doesn't get a whole lot of use outside of combat. Specifically, I really only use the black hole bomb from a combat standpoint. The super arm is really the only item that gets any sort of outside of combat use, which is needed to go into some of the more hidden areas. And at least on that sense, there was at least a purpose to have it there. As we all know, when it comes to power-ups, I want to see more than just your typical combat use when it comes to it. The boss battles straddled the line between being basic and trying to do something unique. The elevated platforms for Punk were a nice idea, and you could also use, say, item 3 or super arm to get up there yourself, which does add a little extra kick to this particular boss fight. However, it does also, for the most part, if it stays relegated to the lower sanctum, which is where I was at for most of the fight, come off as fairly basic. So, it's a good idea. I don't think it was executed the best, but I'm also not upset by it either. At the end of the day, this is a pretty good stage. There's a good design to this one with a lot of fun different traps and obstacles to overcome, and while there was a lack of spikes for a stage called Spike Factory, it's all designed well enough to where you're going to have a good time playing through this one.